So you've got Tanium and you've got ServiceNow, and you want to make these two do stuff together. Well, today we're going to give you the easy button. I've said many times that Tanium is for creators. We've talked about that a lot on this show. And I know that many Tanium admins like yourself wear many hats. And if your company has ServiceNow, you may know the folks that support it, or that may also be you. ServiceNow support might be one of your hats. You might be that admin. So we know there are lots of opportunities to bring the power of these two platforms together to make your life easier. Well, our guest today literally wrote the book on ServiceNow integration. And actually, he's written 6 books, and he's a big deal in the ServiceNow community. So help me welcome to the show today, Tim Woodruff. Hi, Tim.
Howdy. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a huge nerd. That's my main personality trait. I have been doing ServiceNow development for something like a dozen years now. Been at Tanium somewhere around a year and a half. And I've been working on integrations between ServiceNow and the power of the Tanium platform. So I'm happy to be here, both on the show and at Tanium. And I'm looking forward to helping our customers get some better outcomes with their data.
Well, I know you're a bit of a renaissance man. You're a man of many talents. Tell us a little bit about what you do in your spare time.
In my spare time, I sort of run a couple of charities where I try and give back to the community and help people who are in the situation that I've been in myself, not having very much when I was young. Try and help people out in that way. I obviously write way too many books, and I'm always working on some book project for the future. I work a lot with physics as sort of an amateur physics nerd. And most of the rest of my time I spend with my dog, who is an adorable little 3-legged dog that is currently laying on my feet.
Oh, that's great. We are all certainly active outside of work. It sounds like you've chosen some great things to pursue there. So you came to Tanium about a year and a half ago, and they asked you to help with this particular problem to solve how we can leverage the power of these two platforms. So tell us, I know you've been working on a lot of things. Specifically here today, we're talking about the SDK. Tell us a little bit about what you built.
If you're a ServiceNow customer, which 75% of Fortune 500 companies are, and a big chunk of every kind of medium to large sized, especially tech company, is using ServiceNow. So if you're a ServiceNow customer and you want to leverage the power of the Tanium platform to do more than just pipe data into your ServiceNow CMDB, which is a great usage of the platform, especially with the client, our linear chain model, it gives you a lot of value there, but there's so much more locked away within the Tanium platform that is easily accessible via APIs. The problem is a lot of people don't realize how much power the Tanium platform really has under its hood. So the purpose of this application is for customers of ours that are also mutual customers of ServiceNow to be able to access the power of both platforms combined together, so that you can perform actions through Tanium. You can get data from Tanium in a tacit way. Things that you wouldn't necessarily want to put in your CMDB, like crash logs and performance statistics and things like that. You can pull them on demand tacitly when you need them. You can perform actions tacitly when you need to, such as when troubleshooting an incident ticket or something like that. It opens up all the power of the Tanium platform via APIs, but in this little package that allows you to do these sorts of integrations in just a few lines of code. So you're not spending days, weeks, or months building some massive integration project. It's just all right there at your fingertips for you.
So what you're talking about specifically, I understand, is available in the ServiceNow store, right?
Yeah, it's the Tanium Integration Core application, which is available on the ServiceNow store, and it is free. So if you already have Tanium and you're a ServiceNow customer, You don't need to pay anything extra. You've just got it. You plug it into your instance, configure it using a guided setup, which is very easy, and you can start playing around with it.
Well, we like free for sure because we know how hard it is to beg for money in IT budgets. So this is fantastic. So if you've got Tanium and you've got ServiceNow, now you just go to the ServiceNow store and you look for, what's it called again?
It's the Tanium Integration Core application.
All right, Tanium Integration Core. And there you'll see when you find that in the store, you've got links there to an amazing documentation guide that Tim has written. Lots of rich detail there to help you, as well as an email link to integrations@tanium.com if you have any questions or get stuck somewhere. And so, Tim, I'm curious to know how long has this been launched officially?
Oh, as of right now, I think it's been about a week or two. I'm kind of bad at time, but I'm going to say about a week or two.
All right.
So it's fairly new, but we have had some customers using it when it was in beta, giving us feedback for, it's been at least a few months now. We got some really valuable feedback and we've been incorporating it in. And once we launched it on the store, it was, it's definitely out of beta. It's a very functional, heavily tested application and heavily validated.
And that's a big benefit because it's one thing to just roll your own API calls, right? But to have it tested and validated by, Tanium and ServiceNow, to know that this is an approved integration, that really speaks a lot of confidence to customers who might be worried about, just doing something wrong. They know if they use the SDK, they're going to be using some safe methods. And I'm curious to know, in the beta program, what kinds of use cases were customers trying to tackle with this?
Oh, there's a great deal of power there, and I think even our beta users have only just barely scratched the surface. I will preface this by saying that the power of the application is the same as the power of the Tanium platform, which is to say a lot. So it's kind of whatever you want to do with it. But some examples to answer your question would be things like managing computer groups by applying tags from ServiceNow. So you're grouping computers in your CMDB. You can just, take some attribute, run some query and say, apply a tag to all these machines. Or you can just go to the CMDB list view in ServiceNow and check the box next to some arbitrarily defined thing that maybe you're just, it's your personal group that you've decided you want to, maybe you're a patch manager or something. You can group them just by checking the box next to each one and click a button to deploy a tag, which you can then use to group them and manage that group and do things with it. Things like managing deployment of maintenance windows and getting crash logs in the process of incident troubleshooting, deploying actions like, deploying a tag is an action in Tanium, but also deploying other types of actions like to reset your networking configuration for certain types of incident troubleshooting, integrations with the change process, CMDB enhancement. There's a couple of applications that we're now working on as well. They'll be coming later. One example is just-in-time discovery, which is where a CI is discovered the moment that you use it. So whatever your discovery cadence might be, maybe it's once a week, maybe it's once every 24 hours. As soon as you actually use that CI in a change or in an incident, the moment it's used is the moment in which it's updated. So you've got live up-to-date data. And finally, self-service software package installation wrapped in ServiceNow's process, including approvals, even license validation, just all kinds of cool stuff that our customers have come up with and that our internal people have come up with and said, hey, wouldn't this be cool? And then we go, yeah, hey, let's build that.
I'm eager to see it now. So we've been talking about it. Why don't you give us a demo here and show us what this looks like as we're describing it here?
Sure. I've got a couple of quick demos lined up here just to show you how easy it is to use this application. One here that I'm going to show you is adding a tag to an endpoint. So here, for example, I've got an endpoint serial number, and then the name of the tag. And then I've got some other arguments, which are optional, but they are documented in the API documentation for this application. It's all very heavily and clearly documented. You shouldn't have any trouble figuring it out. But all that you really need to know is this is the serial number, this is the tag name, and it's the bulk of it is just these two lines of code. We instantiate the tag util, and then we call this method add tag by serial. Pass in those two arguments. Just the first two are necessary, and hit run. And then we've created an action in the Tanium platform to deploy that tag. So now over the course of the next minute or two, Tanium will go and deploy that action on that endpoint, and it'll add that tag. So now if you had some computer group that was based on that tag, the machines in that group would be updated to include this one that you've just added that tag to. So
that's nice. So if I were, let's say, a less experienced ServiceNow admin, how would I find this screen that you've got here in front of us?
Oh, that's a great question. This is a background script. So you just type in background in your ServiceNow application navigator menu bar, and you go to system definition scripts -background. And if you're in the new, the ServiceNow has a new UI that just came out. I think it's called Polaris. If you're in that, you would just click the all button at the very top left first, and you would see this same bar and do the same thing.
So I go into the script for the background, I create my script, and then later I'm going to link that or call that on some level in the interface.
Right. So the background script just allows me to execute an arbitrary server-side script. Whatever I want to run, I just type the code in here and it runs. And you can see the output over here. If you wanted to, let's say, for example, you wanted to make this a button. So if we go over to the CI form, the configuration item form, I could right click, go to configure, and then UI actions. I could create a new UI action, which I'm not actually going to do and save because that would make it part of the application. I don't want to do that. But just as an example, add ServiceNow tag. And then I would take that script and I would put it in here. But instead of just a hard-coded serial number, I would do current.getValue serial number. And that's it. Clicking that button would add this specific tag. That's not terribly useful unless you want to just tag machines with all the same tag when you click that same button. But that's an example of the functionality. You could also have a modal dialog pop up if you make it client side. By checking that box, you could have a dialog pop up that says, hey, what tag do you want to add? And the UI page that controls what's in that dialog would have a field where you could type in the tag name that you want to apply and then hit OK, and it runs that very same script. And so that's just an example of how you could use it, but that's about all there is to it. To create a button within ServiceNow and then have it run this code, that's all there is.
That's nice. So then the next question that's on everybody's mind is, how did you know what to put in the script box?
That is a great question. So I have this API documentation here. You can see on the left, I've got it all kind of outlined. And if we go down to the interfaces section, these are all the interfaces. Each of these is a script include or a class, the H2 level headers. The H3 level headers under interfaces are method names. So for example, if I want to use the API gateway to ask a question, here's how I can do that. I want to, let's say, add a filter to that question, to that query through the API gateway. I can call the add filter method, and here are the arguments that it accepts. And here's an example of doing that. I add, in this example, 3 filters and 1 sensor, and then I get the next page and it returns the result. And I can show you exactly what that will look like right here. So this is an example of using that exact same pattern with gateway query util. I tell it I want to use live data. That's one of the methods of gateway query util, which you can see right here. So I tell it I want to use live data and I want to look for just one machine. I'm only expecting one machine to respond to this. So I pass in 1. That argument is documented in the doc I just showed you. Then I'm going to add the filter. And this is why I'm only expecting one machine to respond, is because I'm saying, get me all machines with this serial number, and just one would have that. And then I would say, here are the sensors that I want to get. I want to get the operating system platform, the computer name, serial number, and does the custom tag exist? SN-example tag. And over here, you can see the response, and we get a JSON array. And in columns, you can see we've got the column OS platform and the value Windows. So I know the machine is Windows. We've got the computer name. That's the name. That's the serial number. That's the same one I queried for. So that's right. And the tag does not exist on that machine, which is exactly what we expect. So you can see how it's really very simple to get live, real time, up to this very moment information about a CI. And you can plug this code. And this is a complicated version of the code. You probably just want to apply a filter, say use live or cache data, and then add maybe one or two sensors, and then call the has next page API right here. And that's probably going to do it for you. It's probably all you really want for some specific process. Like, for example, maybe you have a button on an incident form and it says get latest crash log. Maybe you're a service desk agent, you're troubleshooting an incident, and the incident says, hey, my computer has crashed. So click a button, get the latest crash log, and it just shows you right there. One sensor, get the latest system crash, and there it is. And so you can imagine how simple that code would be. Even this is quite simple, but that code would be something like 5, maybe 6 lines of code. And to create that button, you would just do basically the same thing we did here.
Well, I know we have a number of people who watch this show who are big fans of code. So where do I find the documentation that you just showed us?
That is on the ServiceNow App Store. When you go to the application listing for Tanium Integration Core, there's some documentation links on the right, and one of the links will take you directly to it'll download this document for you. And there you've got all of the interfaces documented. It's basically exactly this document here.
Oh, nice.
You can even see the change log at the bottom. So one of the great things about the ServiceNow store is that every time there's an update, it's really easy to update the application in your environment. You don't have to download an XML file, go to retrieved update sets, import it, and then preview it and then deploy it. You don't have to do all that. You just hit the update button. It takes care of it for you. So whenever there's an update, you can go and get the new documentation, and you can see what's been updated. And you can see some of the stuff that I'm working on here, like Tanium Tag Util, which is a utility that is documented here that allows you to add and remove tags with just one line of code.
Wow. So this is available in the ServiceNow store. And do I just click a button? Like, how do I get this actually activated and working in my environment so I can use this code?
That is a great question. If you find it in the ServiceNow store, there's actually a section in the documentation called installation and setup. There's 2 options for installation. One is via update set. The other is via the store. We recommend obviously going by the store so that it can update itself as you go on. This is really all there is to it. You find the application, you go to the store listing, and then you click on request app. And then someone from the Tanium side, such as myself, will go in and click approve. And then you've got it. You just install the app you go back and hit the install button. And then all you got to do is, if we jump down to the setup section, you'll find the guided setup in the application. And I'll show you what that looks like in ServiceNow here. The guided setup is just as simple as this. It has you set a few system properties, and that's going to tell ServiceNow, this is my Tanium server endpoint. This is my Tanium module server endpoint. And you can set either username and password or API token. And it talks about that when you go into the setup step. And then you can set a default Tanium mid server if you want. If you use Tanium Cloud, Tanium as a service, you don't need a mid server. If you use Tanium on-prem, you do need a mid server. But if you're a ServiceNow customer and you use anything that requires that you use Tanium on-prem, you probably already have a mid server. So you just tell it which one to use. And then it has you trigger the package sync, and that's going to synchronize all the packages from Tanium into ServiceNow so that ServiceNow knows what packages are available, such as the add tag package, for example. And then it's going to have you run some tests. And these tests are going to automatically check that the application is configured correctly and is working. And if it's not, if anything goes wrong, it's going to tell you exactly what went wrong and what you need to do to fix it. So very simple setup. And then once that's all done, that's it. You can start using the application, writing some code.
Oh man, you've made this too easy, Tim. This is impressive. So we completed beta. We've got it in the store now just for a week or two. And I'm not asking for any big promises or dates or anything, but can you tell us what's on your mind for what will be next to come and future releases?
Yeah, there are a few things that I'm really excited about. There's a couple little things, like I showed you Tanium Tag Util. That's a new interface that's being added to do all kinds of cool stuff with tags. Tanium Group Util is going to allow you to do all kinds of cool stuff with Tanium groups from ServiceNow. Those things are neat, but they're pretty simple conceptually. There is a new application that we are currently working on. I can't say too much about it because it's very early days, and it shouldn't take too long to build. But assuming all goes well, it'll be a configuration item introspection utility. So you open this interface and you tell it which CI you want to introspect into. And it uses all of these other API. It just gives you a nice, pretty interface and uses all these other APIs that we've already built, such as this one, to establish and then query a direct connection to a specific machine. It uses all that information to display in a friendly UI everything you might want to know about the machine. Crash logs, system dumps, performance statistics, all kinds of really cool stuff like that. And it's going to keep itself updated as you're looking at the interface. If something about the machine changes, it's going to keep talking to Tanium. It's going to keep that direct connection going back and forth. If you're looking at the interface, it's talking back and forth with Tanium. It's making sure that endpoint is giving it up-to-date data every few seconds or every so often. The direct connection APIs are a really cool thing that Tanium provides. It allows you to establish and then continually re-query a direct connection to get certain information about an endpoint here. And we've got the response from the direct connection query. You can see we're calling two APIs here, two API methods in ServiceNow. One is get endpoint ID by serial. Well, technically three, because first we got to get the endpoint ID. And then we're establishing a direct connection, and then we're querying the direct connection. That allows us to repeatedly, once the direct connection is established, we can repeatedly re-query that connection. And then we can get all of this nice, useful data out of it, like all the processes running on the machine. And that's pretty cool, but we can actually use it to do a lot more cool stuff in this interface that we're thinking or that we're in the process of building right now. For example, if I want to get a specific process, like here I've got a machine that is running Notepad, and I want to kill this process. Well, I just have to run this code to get the process ID, and it'll print out if Notepad is running. It has a process ID of this. So let's see how that goes. And as you can see here on the right, it says if notepad.exe is running, it has a process ID of 7176. So that's pretty cool, but maybe it's not Notepad. Maybe it's some dangerous, nefarious thing that we've just found in our environment. So add a little bit more code here. And now I'm going to call this API called kill process on endpoint. So I skip specifying the serial number. It's documented that you don't need to specify that when you look at the API documentation for this. I tell it the process name, the process PID, and the endpoint ID of the endpoint, which I got from this API call, get endpoint ID by serial. And that'll be it. And process killed will give me a true or a false. It'll give me a Boolean that indicates whether the process was killed or not. So that's what this method here returns. And then I'm going to print out that information. So let's see how that goes. And it says the process with PID 7176, that's Notepad, which we just got a moment ago, on this endpoint was killed. So let's have a look at the endpoint, and look at that. No more Notepad running. One click, one button, and Notepad be gone. That's what I call this script.
Yeah, it's like the hello world for automation, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun to watch that happen.
Yeah.
So we're winding down on time here, Tim. Thank you. I know we have a lot of coders that watch this show. This is fantastic. And I can see really what you've done is you've abstracted all having to know the Tanium API calls to make into simple calls here in ServiceNow. I really appreciate what you've done to make this easier for folks. So as we wrap up, what parting words, and if you could tell people one thing, what's the most important thing about this?
From my perspective, working in IT for a long time, the most important thing about this is to think about, when you're wondering, well, how could I use this in my environment? Think about, what do you do that's manual? Say you're a service desk person, right? And if you're a ServiceNow developer, you're probably a service desk related person. You probably get requests from the service desk all the time. Think about, what do people that work that job do manually? Do you have to, when someone submits a ticket that says my computer's running slow or my networking is wonko, do you have to wait till your time zones sync up and then call them and hope they're free, find some time on their calendar? You got to get their asset tag and remote into their machine and then manually troubleshoot. Or can you just hit a button and get the information that you need and then hit another button and fix the problem? Maybe you need to run NetSH, WinSock reset, ARPTAC-D, RouteTAC-F, and all that kind of stuff, and reset their network connection. You can make that a package in Tanium and deploy it with one line of code from a button. So you click a button, it runs that one line of code, and just make it your troubleshoot all networking problems button. So whether it's the incident management process, the change management process, the problem management process, just about anything you do in ServiceNow can probably be enriched by adding some either data or some actions from Tanium. The power of the Tanium platform is immense. And I encourage you to look into what Tanium can do and then see if any of that stuff has value to any of your processes that you do from within ServiceNow. Because if it does, you can probably do it with Integration Core in just a couple of lines of code.
That's impressive, Tim. Thank you so much. That is the power of these two platforms coming together. So folks, you've seen it. Now go try it. Automate your world and tell us what you made. We'd love to hear about what you've created with this integration. So you can find more content from Tim on Twitter. He's the Tim Woodruff. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, and then on Amazon, you can find the books that we referenced earlier as well. Now, if you're looking for that in the ServiceNow store, remember it's called the Tanium Integration Core. And if you look in the show notes below here, there's a link to that directly in the ServiceNow store. And if you would like to ask us any questions or just show us what you made, email us at integrations@tanium.com. That's just the word integrations@tanium.com. Let us know. Would love to hear from you. And also, if you have feedback, if there's something that you'd like to see added to this capability, right? Let us know. integrations@tanium.com. So again, just go try it. Automate your world. Have fun with this and tell us what you'd made. We'd love to see what you've done with it. And like I said, this just opens up the power of these two platforms. So go make your world awesome with this new integration called the Tanium Integration Core for ServiceNow. Until next time, go Tanium.
All right, so the machine is definitely running now.